October 24, 2017, toxicant levels in vapor from gloTM were found to be around 90% less than in cigarette smoke. gloTM, a tobacco heating product, heats rather than burns tobacco and operates at much lower temperatures than a lit cigarette, approximately 240 degrees Celsius versus 900 degrees Celsius when you burn a cigarette. Our studies on gloTM reveal that this product produces significantly lower levels of harmful or potentially harmful components compared to a cigarette, says Dr. James Murphy, head of Reduced Risk Substantiation at British American Tobacco. The vapor produced was found to have significantly reduced numbers and lower levels of toxicants compared to cigarette smoke, and so it should in principle expose consumers to much less toxicants, he says. It is the toxicants in smoke that cause most smoking-related diseases. Scientists at British American Tobacco analyzed and compared the vapor from gloTM, a commercially available tobacco heating product, THP, and smoke from a reference cigarette, 3R4F, and found substantial reductions in the gloTM emissions for all smoke toxicant groups measured. Most cigarette smoke toxicants could not be detected in the gloTM vapor. This comprehensive chemical assessment is part of a science-based approach that we have developed to demonstrate the reduced risk potential of THPs and other next-generation products relative to smoking cigarettes, says Murphy. We believe that such an approach is essential to communicating to consumers and regulators that the available information on our products is based on sound, evidence-based science, he says. The scientists set out to measure 126 substances, including toxicants that have been identified by Health Canada, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration (FDA), and the WHO Study Group on Tobacco Product Regulation, TILBREG, as harmful or potentially harmful to health, and other compounds produced by burning tobacco. A smoking robot was used to generate smoker vapor in the laboratory in a way that mimics realistic use of the products. Air samples were also produced with which to compare the smoke and vapor. An analysis of the emissions showed that gloTM produces a much simpler aerosol than cigarettes, figures 1 and 2. gloTM emitted over 95% less, on average, of 102 of 126 compounds that could be measured, compared to smoke. For the 9 toxicants that the WHO proposes for lowering in cigarette smoke, the overall average reduction was 97.1%, while for the 18 requiring mandatory reporting by the FDA, it was 97.5%. 24 substances could not be detected quantified in the gloTM emissions, smoke or both. The findings add to a body of evidence that could be used to support gloTM as a potential reduced-risk product compared to conventional cigarettes. The results are published today in a special issue of the journal Regulatory Toxicology and Pharmacology, entered at British American Tobacco. Correlated tobacco article: As smokers quitting tobacco also drink less alcohol. People who have recently begun an attempt to quit smoking tobacco are more likely to try to drink less alcohol than other smokers, according to research published in the open access journal BMC Public Health. Current tobacco news and events related tobacco. Reading Tobacco: A Cultural History of How an Exotic Plant Seduced Civilization by Ian Gately. Author: Tobacco was first cultivated and enjoyed by the indigenous inhabitants of the Americas, who used it for medicinal, religious, and social purposes long before the arrival of Columbus. But when Europeans began to colonize the American continents, it became something else entirely: a cultural touchstone of pleasure and success, and a coveted commodity that would transform the world economy forever. Ian Gately's Tobacco tells the epic story of an unusual plant and its unique relationship with the history of humanity, from its obscure ancient beginnings, through its rise to global prominence. View details. Tobacco Road by Erskine Caldwell. Author: Unsentimentally realistic. This classic novel is a reflection of the effects of poverty on tenant farmers in the South during the Great Depression. It focuses on the Lester family, former cotton farmers who continue to live on their ancestors' plantation even though it has long ceased to be prosperous. Jeter and Ada Lester have 17 children, 2 of whom still live at home: Ellie Mae, their only unmarried daughter who has a cleft lip, and Dude, their youngest son who is mentally handicapped. The family's antics, while at times vile and perverse, depict the racism and moral ambiguity that View details. Merchants of Doubt: How a Handful of Scientists Obscured the Truth on Issues from Tobacco Smoke to Global Warming by Naomi Orskes. Author: Eric M. Conway. Author: Merchants of Doubt should finally put to rest the question of whether the science of climate change is settled. It is, and we ignore this message at our peril. Elizabeth Colbert. Brilliantly reported and written with brutal clarity. Huffington Post. Now a powerful documentary from the acclaimed director of Food Inc., Merchants of Doubt, was one of the most talked about climate change books of recent years. For reasons easy to understand, it tells the controversial story of how a loose-knit group of high-level scientists and scientific advisors view details. Show To Grow Your Own Tobacco from Seed to Smoke by Ray French. Author. How to Grow Your Own Tobacco from Seed to Smoke covers everything you need to know to plant, harvest, and cure your own tobacco, including troubleshooting for pests and diseases. How do I get seeds started? What is the perfect container for growing tobacco? And how do I harvest and dry the plants to smoke once they've matured? There is no stone left unturned in this DIY book about growing and smoking your own tobacco. The interesting processes involved are thoroughly covered, and author Ray French doesn't leave anything out. There are directions for every stage of the process. View details. Tobacco Sun by Lorna Hollifield. Author. The year is 1947. The war is over. Jackie Robinson has just integrated baseball, and Frank Sinatra breezes in over the fuzzy airwaves. A sense of relief is finally sweeping the nation, everywhere except Tobaccoville, North Carolina. Beyond the rural fields that are pregnant with decades of secrets, a mysterious Hollywood pin-up is jailed for murder, while her facially birthmarked half-sister may hold the answers as to why. The two girls, estranged for years, share a haunting past, a shell-shocked love interest, and maybe even a cruel destiny. Through mounds of view details. Out of Tobacco Fields by Shirley Appleman Ross. Author. An ill-fated affair at a large tobacco plantation becomes a forbidden love story between a migrant worker's daughter and the rich estate owner's son. A father who would stop at nothing to make sure a less fortunate family will never commingle with his upper-class society. His quest is unstoppable and will go to all lengths to cast aside the young love threatening their class. Their lives take many twists and turns after the family is forced to leave the tobacco plantation. Will they meet again and rekindle the passion and love they once shared? Will destiny and circumstances keep them from? View details. Tobacco Culture. The Mentality of the Great Tidewater Planters on the Eve of Revolution, by T.H. Breen. Author. The great tidewater planters of mid-18th century Virginia were fathers of the American Revolution. Perhaps first and foremost, they were also anxious tobacco farmers, harried by a demanding planting cycle, transatlantic shipping risks, and their uneasy relations with English agents. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and their contemporaries lived in a world that was dominated by questions of debt from across an ocean, but also one that stressed personal autonomy. T.H. Breen's study of this tobacco culture focuses on how elite planters gave meaning to existence. View details. Tobacco Tins. A Collector's Guide by Douglas Kongdun Martin. Author. Collectors will cherish this full-color exploration of the tobacco tin. Over 1,000 tobacco tins are illustrated in full color, revealing the designer's and the lithographer's art. The tobacco industry in America was at the forefront of modern advertising and among the first to try to instill brand identification and loyalty in their customers. Consequently, many of these tins are eye-catching and beautiful. This is one of the reasons they are such popular collectibles. This book is the first full-color reference on tobacco tins, featuring clear photography and the highest quality reproduction. View details. A Twist of Tobacco Volume 1 by Rita Ownby Holcomb. A Thora family is like a twist of tobacco, layered, folded and twisted until each leaf becomes inseparable. 10-year-old Lizzie proudly watches her brothers, uncles, and close neighbors ride off to war in their butternut uniforms, not realizing that she will soon be responsible for her 5 younger siblings. Based on family stories and traditions and backed by years of research, this historical novel immerses you in the war-torn hills of Middle Tennessee, the bloodbath that was Chickamauga, and the hellhole of Rock Island Prison. Follow the Civil War lives of the 11 Ownby children during the View details. Tobacco Growing, Curing, Manufacturing by C.G. Warrenford Luck. Author. Maggie McAthor. A reproduction of the original book Tobacco Growing, Curing, Manufacturing, published in 1886. This book may have occasional imperfections such as missing or blurred pages, poor pictures, errant marks, etc. that were either part of the original artifact, or were introduced by the scanning process. We believe this work is culturally important, and, despite the imperfections, have elected to bring it back into print as part of our continuing commitment to the preservation of printed works worldwide. We appreciate your understanding of the imperfections in the preservation process, and hope you view details.